Welcome to Lawyer on the Line.
Welcome back to Lawyer on the Line podcast. I'm Roger Riedmiller, and this is the podcast about truck auto collisions. And this week we're talking about videotape, video evidence in truck collisions. I've been practicing law in the Wichita area for 39 years, and we are located in downtown Wichita, right across the street from the old Sedgwick County Courthouse. And this is my partner, Mark Scott. Mark.
Hello, Roger. How are you doing today?
Good.
So, video.
Video is the new tech. I mean, it has grown exponentially since I first started practice. There were virtually no videos, and now they're everywhere. It is amazing how many different sources there are of video. And I want to talk about two aspects to begin with. Number one, with video, you need to understand that you have to locate the video and understand how to extract or control the video. And then number two, you need to understand the time, how important time is in the video game of gathering video evidence in truck collision cases. So if you don't understand how important it is that you need to act immediately, a lot of video will be lost. A lot of video will be overwritten and so forth. So if you get that video, it's so important, and it can be so helpful to your case, so helpful to understanding what actually happened before the collision, so helpful in contradicting the story of the trucker if you know that you are not at fault, but the trucker is blaming you for the accident. Video is king. So let's start with, Mark, where are the most common sources of video in these truck collision cases?
Sure. Well, 10 years ago, we dealt with the dash cams coming into existence, and people have seen those, but the dash cams of today do a lot more than they used to be. So before video, really you had the witnesses and the drivers that could tell us what happened in the crash, and you kind of had to judge what was correct, what was misremembered. Then along came video, and we started to have some video evidence of how an accident occurred. Initially, we had a lot of trucks that had dash cams. Initially, they were also just forward facing, so they were just catching the view of the truck driver, the view in front of that truck driver. But as technology has increased, we found that there's a lot more video that is showing up. So these dash cams in trucks now often have a camera facing forward and a camera that's also facing at the driver. But then it even gets more. I've seen trucks that had equipped cameras that not only got the front view, but off of the front fender, off to the left, off of the right fender to the right. There's even backup cameras, and sometimes there's even cameras that are activated on the back of the truck just during regular driving. So we're seeing that there's a lot more sources of these videos, and there's more than just the vehicles that are involved that we're dealing with. You've seen it. You have a Ring camera at home. Guess what? That can be a great source of how a crash happens if you can locate that information.
But talking about the trucks, though, before you go on to that topic, or subtopic, let's talk about the trucks. As I understand it, you've had a couple cases here recently where you had to dig into the operating system of the camera to understand like the Lytx system, and there was another one.
Samsara and Lytx are two of the really big systems.
That basically they handle the video differently. They capture the video perhaps differently, store it differently, upload it differently, etc.
Yes. So these software things that we've mentioned, the Lytx, Samsara, are a couple of the more popular ones. These are becoming AI driven. And what that means is that as they're recording information, the video is being fed through the AI system and it's flagging certain things, behaviors. If a driver is fatigued and is starting to nod off, that camera now with the system can be smart enough to give an alert to the driver in the cab. They can also send an alert to the motor carrier, the home terminal, to say, hey, something's going on with this driver, look into it. In some of these systems, the companies can actually live look at a camera of a driver going down the road.
And I'm sure that would be extremely helpful in understanding the totality of the accident, beginning with maybe as soon as an hour before the accident. You see the behavior of the trucker as they are driving down the highway or stopping at a roadside, getting out of the truck. You see their behaviors. You see that they're especially tired, or maybe under the influence, or they're easily distracted. There's just a number of behaviors, I suppose, you could see on that video that may be very helpful.
Yes, definitely so. But an important thing to think about is the ability to get to that information can be rather difficult. Most trucking companies do not just give that information over if you request it. So in these type of cases, one of the things that a trucking attorney would do early on in the case, as soon as it walks in the door, is get out letters of preservation, go into the motor carrier, if somebody else owns the tractor, to owners to say, hey, you need to keep this certain information, because these cameras, while some of the information can get linked up to the cloud, if you're looking at information that is just before the crash, that's not getting saved. And at some point, it's getting stored to an SD card, and it's going to get overwritten. So getting out letters to have that information saved is very, very important, we find.
The other thing that you started to hit on that I kind of misdirected you or moved you around on was everybody thinks, well, when we're talking about video, we're talking about the video cameras on the truck, but there are so many other sources from video, such as my Nest on my front door. That camera actually shoots out into the street, and I've actually had somebody call me, a neighbor across the street, saying, hey, did you see the car that hit my son's car, scraped it? And I said, well, no. But what she meant, did your camera catch that? So we had to go back on the Nest camera and look. And that's one of the things about timeliness. Our Nest camera only went back so far. So if you don't get to that question, get to that camera, and then start the research, you may lose what that camera has recorded for you. It's not just the Nest and Ring and Arlo cameras, but there are a number of other different types of cameras, like the DOT cameras on highways.
Sure.
We have some in Kansas. We don't see them very often providing too much data, but I'm sure they're getting more and more robust.
They are.
Then there's also the stoplight cameras. What are some of the other cameras that you can think of?
Well, when we get in the case, we often will look at a map, look at Google Earth, and see what businesses or homes may be in that area that could have data on video. And if we think there might be, we'll send out letters to them. Hey, please, can you check and see if you caught this crash that occurred on such and such date? And if so, we'd like a copy of it and for you to preserve it. So that's part of what our investigation does. But so we're looking for different businesses and homes that are in the area, but you can even take it back further. So sometimes what we're trying to prove is not exactly what happened in the crash, but what happened leading up to the crash. Was the driver driving for way too many hours? And there's ways to figure that out. And one of the ways can be backtracking the route the driver took and trying to see if there's any video proof. A lot of the gas stations these days where we go have cameras, and you can get a picture of that driver. You can see whether they seem fatigued or anything like that. So everything we're finding, we can stitch together to get a better picture of why did this happen.
Well, and docks where people pick up their loads will often have cameras showing the load being placed in the trailer of the truck, and maybe are being secured, maybe not. they're being in a hurry to move and loading the merchandise or whatever it is they're loading onto the truck could be a key factor in your case in causing or contributing to the accident, causing the erratic behavior of the driver. Because remember, we're not always just looking for the behavior of the driver, but the behavior of the truck, the behavior of the business that runs the truck. Are they providing or doing all of the safety? What am I trying to say? Using all of the safety procedures that they're required to use in order to load and transport whatever they're transporting on the highways.
And that's a really good point. You know, we focus on crashes, but there's different types of commercial cases that we handle that sometimes don't even involve a crash. Could be a truck driver who goes to the back of the vehicle to start unloading and things weren't secured properly, and product falls on the driver and injures him. So just like Roger said, getting the dock information, the videos from the dock, seeing how things were strapped down, if things were done properly, even that can be a way to solidify those type of cases.
If you get nothing from this video other than this one point, it's worth watching this video. And that is, there is a preservation clock on your case. Video disappears after a certain period of time, and it disappears in some types of video very, very quickly. The preservation clock I'm talking about is grabbing a hold of that video or sending out the preservation letter directing someone else to grab a hold of that video. And Mark, you've done preservation letters quite often. What do you see as far as response to preservation letters where you're asking businesses, people to hold on to the video, to preserve the video?
We get a pretty good response from the businesses. People want to help people. And so when they know they might have something that could help on an injury claim, they generally seem pretty favorable for giving that. But the clock's ticking on that evidence. It's fragile. Videos get overwritten on almost all systems on a continuous loop. Some of them can be just 72 hours. Some are longer. But going back to the video that like on the Lytx and the Samsara systems, some of that flagged video can get retained longer, but it usually takes a request to retain it. Just because the AI flagged it doesn't mean that it's going to stay in the AI's system nonstop. At some point, it's going to get overwritten. So timing is very critical.
So the letter you send out, we send out as a firm, is called a spoliation letter. Explain to our viewers what we mean by spoliation letter.
Okay. So the spoliation usually is something that you would be able to use against the person or a motor carrier that had the video that didn't keep it. Wouldn't necessarily be for if a business didn't respond to your request and keep video. But if you direct it to the actual motor carrier or the driver in that case, and they have video that they could have saved and they don't, then we have favorable law in our jurisdiction, Kansas, 10th Circuit, federal court, that if they were put on notice that information is being requested to be saved, they had it, they didn't keep it, there could be an inference that anything that was on that video was actually harmful to them, and that can be very powerful before a jury. Hey, they had this video. It could have, if you believe their side, that would have cleared them, but they didn't keep it. So that probably means that it wasn't good for them, and you get an instruction from the judge to the jury about that. So it can be very powerful.
So the spoliation letters go out to the places where to the businesses that have video. But let's back up a second. Before you even get to that point, I know one of the first things we do is we canvass the areas we need to, or we believe we need to find video. And I know, like, for example, the recent case, there was an intersection accident where someone ran a stop sign and cause a serious accident. And we ended up getting the video from, I believe it was a church.
Yes.
But we wouldn't have gotten that video if we didn't go physically to that area and walk through that area and canvass that area.
Certainly.
So
Does take some legwork.
it's one of the first things we do. And then the second thing we do is we send documents, or, well, we said spoliation letters, but the spoliation letters describe what it is we're looking for, the date of the accident, as much information as we can give to them so they can identify what video we're talking about, what scene we're talking about. And then we also have to check other sources of ID cameras, as you talked about previously, the intersection. What other types of cameras have you found that have been most helpful in your cases?
Well, a lot of times what really is helpful is either dash cam or body cam photograph from the investigators, because once they get to the scene, they're starting to figure out what happened. Part of that is by looking at physical evidence, but a big part of it is talking to the witnesses and the drivers involved. So that kind of video could be very helpful. The problem with that kind of video is generally the sheriff departments, Kansas Highway Patrol, police departments are getting less likely to give that information out without a subpoena. So you got to put them on notice to at least, we want to find out if you have that video and retain it, even if you're not going to give it to us now. That way, when we do get into a litigation and we can issue a subpoena with the subpoena power of court, that information is still there.
Do you find that the various police departments you've interacted with, where you're requesting video, that they are adequately preserving the video evidence?
No, unfortunately,
Seriously.
video takes up an incredible amount of storage space. And Wichita is about 600,000 people. We've got a pretty good sized police force, but all the officers, all the cars these days have cameras that are gathering that data. So they're saving it, but they're not saving it indefinitely. We've gotten involved in some cases later than we wish we could have. And we write to the investigating facility and they say, we don't have that video anymore. We only keep it for 90 days. We only keep it for a year. And it's storage based. They can't afford to is the problem. So getting a letter out or contact with them can help at least flag something specific for them to retain.
One of the sources of video that we haven't talked about are videotapes or video pictures that come from other vehicles around the accident scene. A witness to the accident may stop and tell the police that they saw the accident and they had video. I remember I had a case where they didn't tell the police, but they did report to one of the accident victims that they were there at the scene and they had videotape.
Right.
And when I saw the videotape, it was a slam dunk.
Sure.
It wasn't a slam dunk before then. It was her word against his word. And videotape just changes everything.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we don't have anything on our Kansas crash reports where it even has a place for a investigating officer to mark whether it was dash cam or not involved. But like Roger said, sometimes a witness will go to the officer and say, hey, we've got video of it. And that gets into the report. But I've had matters where we didn't know there was video until we got into litigation. There was no indication, and there it is. So it can be very difficult to find it all. So it just takes a lot of hard work.
Would you say, though, that in truck collision cases, the likelihood that there's some video out there is quite high?
It's definitely getting there. The older trucks, small mom and pops, don't have the cameras as often as we would like. But on the big fleets, it's becoming very standard to have those cameras. And again, it's not just the view ahead. It can be at the driver, it can be down the sides of the truck. So much video is out there.
What's the advantage of having a video that's focused on, I mean, I get it that you have, it's nice to have a video showing where the truck is going and what the trucker is seeing, which is probably the accident that's about ready to happen as he plows through a red light. But what's the advantage of having the camera facing the other direction towards the trucker?
Sure, it can show us so much about what's going on. Where truckers are not supposed to be on a handheld device. They can use wireless, but they're not supposed to be using a handheld device. Definitely no texting. So you can catch those things on video sometimes. And again, you can see signs of fatigue, either heads falling over a little bit, or maybe they're starting to sway a little bit. But there's a lot of things that we can figure out from the video evidence as to what's going on in that truck. Was the driver distracted? Why didn't he see this red light coming up? Well, it's because he was eating a sandwich, and there's the video proof of it. So very, very important information.
And then back to the preservation, it's so important because of the video being so difficult to store because it's high in data, right?
Yes.
And so, but it's difficult to store because most systems are set up to override after a period of time.
Sure.
Because so much video really isn't relevant to anything, or it served its purpose at the time,
Right.
just showing that the driver went from point A to point B. But the other thing we haven't really talked about is some of that video may seem irrelevant or useless, but when you piece it together with the other technology that we're going to talk about in a future podcast, you can piece together your case with the data from computers, along with the video,
Right.
along with the logbook, and all of these things create a picture, unlike a video, but like a video picture, but the full picture of the case. And so that's why I've always said video is king.
Definitely. It is much that.
But even with video, you almost always need an expert involved, don't you?
Some of it, yes. If it's just a simple dash cam with an SD card, maybe not. But when you get into the fleet type of software that's being used, again, the Lytx and the Samsara, you've got to have somebody that knows how to get in there and download the appropriate video, see how far back it went. It can also be very important to look and see what settings were used in that Lytx or Samsara software. There's different things that whoever sets up the system can say, flag this, flag that. And if they don't turn those things on, well, that means something to me too. Because if they don't turn it on, do they really care about safety? Because this can help them as much as an injured party, because it's going to say what really happened.
So the owner of the truck has, and the camera has the ability, long before an accident or collision comes along, to set up what they want to capture on video.
Yep. What's going to be flagged?
And if they don't flag like hard brakes, or they don't flag swerving, there's a reason for that.
Definitely. At least that's my position.
And you can present that evidence, is what you're telling me, but you probably need an expert to pull down that information off of that software.
Some of this you can set it up to do a simple download, but if you get into some specifics where you want details from a little bit before the crash, yes, an expert would definitely be of assistance and maybe even required to get it all.
Well, it seems to me that, kind of in conclusion here, to kind of wrap this up, video is king in today's collisions.
Yes.
Especially involving trucks and automobiles. King as far as it even kind of trumps statements of eyewitnesses.
Most definitely can.
Okay. And, but you have to find those cameras. And so it's kind of a chase, isn't it? When you get a case in, we look at the map, we look at Google Map, we look at all kinds of things to try to find out where are the cameras. kind of reminds me of Where's Waldo?
Yes.
Because you're looking at the map at first and you go, well, there's no cameras around here. And they go, well, now, wait a minute. There's a home here. Maybe they have a ring or a Nest camera. So you got to find them. And then the third step is preserving them, because just because you found a camera, just because you know that the truck has cameras on it, doesn't mean you have anything until you've actually preserved that video.
Very true.
Um,
And again, time is of the essence.
and that's the
Some
last.
of this information is gone in just a couple days, 72 hours, and some of it's gone. So the injured person, although they may not want to be thinking about an attorney that soon on, they want to focus on their injuries. But there's reasons why, unfortunately, it's wise to get somebody involved early. The clock is ticking. Things are disappearing as you go.
That was my final line. You kind of stole that, Mark.
Thank you.
But people do need to understand the clock truly is ticking on your case. Doesn't mean that if you waited, you're definitely going to lose, but it certainly means there's a good chance that vital evidence will be lost.
Yeah.
So don't let the clock run out on you. Get somebody who knows what to do in the event of this type of collision, who has experience and can put the puzzle pieces together and figure out where, what, when, and how with respect to your automobile truck collision. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on our next Lawyer on the Line podcast.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.